There's a place the government swore never existed. No coordinates on a map. No records in public archives. Only whispers from the few who live to tell the tale. They call it Black Rock Prison. But inside its walls, it's known by another name. The Pit. A name that carries the smell of death and the weight of forgotten souls. 23. A journalist named Mariana Lowe received an anonymous flash drive in the mail. No return address. No note. Just a single line written in pencil. If you air this, they'll come for you too. That footage changed everything. The government immediately denied it, said it was doctored foreign propaganda. But then survivors began to speak, and their stories matched. Locals say the first stones of Black Rock were laid in 1978 during a military dictatorship. Back then, they said it was a rehabilitation center. In reality, it was an experiment, a psychological lab disguised as a penitentiary. Isolation, deprivation, mind-breaking conditions designed to make prisoners confess even when there was nothing to confess. The deeper we looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a prison. It was a dumping ground for the unwanted. Political dissidents, whistleblowers, journalists, even ex-soldiers who knew too much. A place built not to hold people, but to erase them. For decades, no one questioned it, because no one ever came back, until one did. He spent 9 years inside that pit. 9 years without sunlight, without a name, without proof he existed. And when he was released, or rather dumped at a border town hospital, his identity had been erased from all government systems. According to official records, he was never born. So how does a place like this stay funded for decades? The answer: money. Contracts disguised as infrastructure projects. Budgets rerouted through shell corporations. And private security firms paid millions to maintain order in a prison that didn't legally exist. Every beating, every disappearance had a receipt. And behind it all, one name keeps appearing: General Alonzo Cruz. A man who vanished from public life after a corruption scandal in 1992. But in Black Rock, he was king. Some say he still runs it from the shadows. What you're about to see was never meant to leave those walls. Smuggled out by an inmate known only as Tico. He was found dead 3 weeks after this footage surfaced. This is the cost of being forgotten. But this story isn't about death alone. It's about the one person who dared to go back to uncover the truth. She didn't go in as a journalist. She went in as a prisoner. At 4:30 a.m., Mariana Lowe vanished. She left behind her phone, her ID, and the world that knew her name. Her last message to her editor read only, "If I don't make it out, tell them it's real." For 3 years, she chased the myth of Black Rock, dismissed by governments, mocked by colleagues. But the footage she received, it wasn't a hoax. And Mariana was done chasing shadows. She wanted proof. And there it was. No flags. No signs. Just concrete, rust, and silence. The place where names go to die. Officially, it was listed as a quarantine facility. Unofficially, it was hell. Guards called her document. They never asked questions. They were too tired or too scared to care. They weren't talking about prisoners. They were talking about the guards who'd lost their minds. This place didn't just break inmates. It broke everyone who entered. There are smells you can never forget. Rotting wounds. Damp walls. Human fear. Mariana later wrote in her journal, "The smell wasn't just in the air. It was in the walls. In the floor. In my clothes." Some inmates weren't serving sentences. They were part of an experiment in obedience, isolation, and memory control. There's a rumor about a room beneath the lower cells where prisoners were sent when they disobeyed. It had no name, just a number. Inside, no lights, no beds, just a chair, bolted to the floor, facing a wall full of scribbles, hundreds of them, each one the same word, over and over again: forgive. Later, she'd learned this was where they broke people. Sensory deprivation, water torture, endless hours of recordings played on loop, prisoners' own voices, begging themselves to confess. The method was simple: make them forget who they were until they confessed to anything you wanted. Tests. That word appeared again and again in old files. Behavioral tests. Adaptation tests. Silence control. But the deeper she went, the less it sounded like punishment and more like research. This was never just a prison. It was a human experiment designed to see how far the mind could bend before it broke. And the results were buried. In her second week, she started hearing whispers through the pipes. Names, dates, prayers. At first, she thought it was the prisoners. Then she realized these weren't live voices. They were recordings, played through the pipes. Each reel contained confessions, thousands of them, layered and replayed so often that even the guards couldn't tell what was real anymore. That name, her name, was never supposed to be known. By week 3, Mariana realized something terrible. She wasn't the first journalist to go undercover here. Isaac Morel, a name forgotten for 16 years. Until now, he never made it out. What Mariana found inside Black Rock wasn't just evidence. It was the truth, buried beneath decades of fear, violence, and silence. She followed the sound to a section known as Block 0, a wing officially sealed since 1989 after a fire that allegedly killed every inmate inside. But Mariana's footage proved it was never sealed. And what she found beyond that door was never meant to be seen. Mariana had uncovered what the world would come to call the lost files. Thousands of video logs, interrogation tapes, and classified orders, stretching back over 40 years. Every inmate's name, every disappearance, every falsified death certificate. The paper trail of an empire built on silence. That was the last footage she ever recorded. Independent journalist Mariana Lowe has been reported missing in the South American border region. Her last known contact was with a local guide near the ruins of an abandoned military site. But 2 days later, her editor received a package. No return address, no note. Inside a flash drive. On it, the full archive of the lost files. Every horror, every secret, every name that had been erased. And one final video. If you're watching this, it means they failed to bury it again. This place was built to erase truth. But truth doesn't die. It waits for someone to listen. After the leak, multiple governments denied involvement. General Alonzo Cruz was never found. Black Rock Prison was officially demolished in early 2024. Yet satellite imagery shows something still standing in the jungle. The coordinates change every month. Some say the pit still breathes, that its walls echo with the voices of the forgotten, and that every time someone tries to tell this story, another flash drive appears,